Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Ofield, with another Propagandacast for you, my viewers. And today we have a 1 versus 1 on Langres. Yes, indeed, it is a match on Langres. And today we will have facing each other in the northern corner the British 1st Infantry Division straight off the beaches at Gold, making their way towards Caen, only to be opposed by Hauptmann Stallin. Not Stalin, but Stallin, his German cousin apparently, of leading a regiment of the 716th Bodenständige Grenadier Division, regrouping a bit behind the beaches and trying to delay the British onslaught towards Caen. And I'd also like to have a small discussion about replays being sent in. It's not the fact that I'm lacking, quite the opposite. I'm getting quite a lot. Usually I get about 2 to 3 every day, and since I can only do mostly one, I'll try to get some extras up, and I have intention of doing it to sort of celebrate, oh hey, a new patch. And of course there will also be done 2 if we actually reach 400, of which I do believe we're only 40 subscribers away from. So if you want more games cast, get more subscribers. Simple as that. But yeah, I can't really do all of those, and of course I appreciate all the replays sent, and if I don't cast it, don't take it personally, because it can be for all sorts of reasons, me being a bit lazy and wanting a shorter one because I'm just for some reason bloody tired that day, or because I've all of a sudden got 5 games on Angleville, and well, I'd rather not have this channel turn into the Angleville cast channel. I'm sure there's someone who can actually specialize in that, but not for me. I want variation and variety. Well, that's 2 ways of saying the same thing. That's a bit redundant. Anyhows, let's actually get on with this. Will the 716th be able to hold back the British, or will the British sweep them aside once more as they did on the beaches and make their way towards Caen? And I am a bit early into this game already, but there was a bit of a forgotten to turn on the volume, so I had to restart casting and all that. Looks like these chaps are familiar with each other's Mr. Captain Ofield and of course Stallin. So there'll be a bit of friendly chatting there, discussing some of all the patch changes. Of course there have been many. For example, infantry sections, more particularly the recon section, can no longer lay down trenches, which is certainly helpful, as there was some sneaky bits with them rushing ahead and then proceeding to lay down some trenches. Pioneers moving ahead, focusing on the eastern half, and we also see a recon bike out as the first unit. Quite nice and dandy, in particular if your opponent throws the ever stalwart Bren carrier at you, at which point the motorcycle with its machine gun there will certainly be of help. We see a lieutenant dashing away on his own, no support, capping territory as well, and he might be faced with a bike already. Quite sneaky harassment, and he's probably is in fact intending to fight the lieutenant and stop him. There we go, the lieutenant running all his little legs can stand as the machine gun equipped bike hunts him down. And we see the recon section having secured this fuel point, possibly for the headquarters truck to move up. Yes indeed, and this is of course more easy for it now that there's been a big nice hole right there in the hedge. And we see the bike having to pull back in the face of a recon section. Most dangerous. And we see another infantry section moving out, but they could certainly use the help of a lieutenant to actually keep them motivated. First MG42 on the field, moving in support of the bike. The bike providing line of sight, allowing the MG40 to really hit on anything beyond its range. And there we go, recon section is quickly suppressed. Dual machine guns, albeit the one on the bike not really quite as accurate or damaging, but still quite nasty conjunction. But a recon section is moving in from the north. Still no lieutenant to actually help them a bit, since the lieutenant actually imparts bonuses besides actually allowing to move faster. We see pioneers continuing to hook their way through the right, going for this fuel point. The headquarters command truck apparently having stopped for some tea instead of continuing its race forwards. Lieutenant now ready to actually guide these troopers, firing away this bike, forcing it backwards. Recon section moving in from the flank, MG42 getting flanked. In fact, will it turn around? Full Grenadiers joining in as well. And we see the infantry section moving in from the north, but as the recon section has not cleared out their machine gun, they are holding their ground, not moving in. The recon bike trying to push around this recon section, not really doing well. It might in fact get wrecked. Will it? No, it barely makes. No, engine damage, and the bike blows up, leaving only the MG42 team, which has still not turned around, is in fact still exposed quite nastily. Also, these hay stacks have actually been changed into something a bit more moldy and fallen together. So it certainly makes sense for troops to fire through them. And now these Volksgrenadiers are getting surrounded. Elements of the 716th will have to get out of there quite hastily. And going straight for this strategic cutoff point, rendering this fuel and of course all of the other things out of the grasp of the Wehrmacht until they can launch another attack to retake this position. Lieutenant sneaking about, and we see a 3rd infantry section hitting the field, forcing these pioneers into a very hasty run as they are now left behind enemy lines. And we see fresh Volksgrenadiers hitting the field as well. We see efforts here in the west to actually take some other fuel points, but not this one actually. That's a bit curious, as that's usually one of the easiest to take and hold, of course, and certainly also beneficial to do so. And we see Volksgrenadiers moving in with the MG42. The crews, though, are quite wounded. Might certainly not hold long. And we see a Vickers machine gun emplacement being set up. Actually not in an entirely bad position, as it will in fact be able to dominate this entire position and of course cover this strategic point. Of course, it can't stand in its own, but at the same time it has a building on its right, so if you can hold that, you can already do some nasty bits there. And of course we also have here, so it's in fact a very well placed machine gun, quite able to strengthen the British position and of course make any attempts at moving straight here much more difficult, and force the Wehrmacht into longer maneuvers to actually do anything. So that's quite beneficial, and of course exposes them, and of course also give the British more time to actually detect them if they are trying to sneak about. Some very nice job. MG42 sitting up a bit further back, out of the range of the Vickers machine gun. The Vickers machine gun, I do believe, being the exact same one, perhaps with a few modifications from World War I, in which case it was also used as a tea kettle of some sort, as it was water cooled, and well, once the water was warm, why not use it for tea, was the British thought on the matter. Infantry section getting suppressed by the MG42. Not looking good, and a full retreat, but the British are managing to secure a small front line, and of course the areas nearby. Another infantry section moving ahead rather reluctantly, not entirely keen on all this, moving about out in the open business without an officer. That is MG42 redeploying right here at the bushes and the wooden fence, and this infantry section will have to get out of there. Volksgrenadiers moving in for a flank. This machine gun is certainly a bit exposed at the moment, nothing to actually support it. And we see further lieutenants to actually help here. Might be trying to blob, which is not entirely something many people approve of, and particularly since these bonuses stack, but there has been some changes so they don't actually stack nearly as much, which is certainly beneficial. But currently 2 lieutenants supervising this infantry team, certainly not their happiest moment, having to be under the command of 2 lieutenants. But the bonuses received from this won't be as large as they used to. Instead, bonuses will be larger for when they actually increase in veterancy, and of course lieutenants have also been made harder once they reach higher veterancy levels. For example, veterancy level 1 makes them harder to hit, and veterancy level 2 makes them harder to damage. So that's a bit further help there in keeping the lieutenants much more survivable. But the Vickers machine gun emplacement really holding up nicely. British sitting up there with the rifle grenades, but getting out of there again. And we see the lieutenants now mucking about on their own, taking territory in the name of King George. And we see the field support truck arriving. Where will it set up? I'm not entirely sure.
We are losing ground.
We see smoke going down here to cover this point. Very ingenious use of the rifle grenades, as they can in fact fire off smoke, and this is something very few people use. Smoke in general, but also rifle grenade smoke, and I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. There was a bit of lag for some for some reason. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Perhaps some sort of update going on in the background. I can't say. And there we go again. I do apologize. We'll have to see if it stops doing that.
Our forward supply lines are broken.
And we see the British pulling back to the field support truck, setting up right here at this medium munitions point. So certainly meant plenty of upgrades for those troops. And we see a casualty clearing station going up here. Certainly a nice choice. Of course, it's a bit accessible. Then again, it's quite behind all of this, so it's certainly not too exposed, but it's close. And of course, it also can provide healing bonuses, and of course recover the wounded. So very nice position, of course, very nice building. And we see the first sapper section on the field. Very nice, dashing chaps beginning to repair this Vickers machine gun. Grenadiers moving ahead as we do have the Krieg barracks going off, and a Kampfkraft center with veterans 1 for the infantry, of course, giving them some healing. And we see a pack having set up, ready to expose PAP as this exposes itself, while the Grenadiers move ahead to reconnoiter, now taking heavy pack fire. Will the British move in and stop this? We see a lieutenant sneaking about, going for this strategic cutoff point. Currently the British do hold most of the map. The Wehrmacht certainly having been forced a bit back on their back foot, in particular with this Vickers dominating most of the map. Charging the pack, but hitting a minor step, but a fresh section is moving in, firing away. And this Grenadier team really needs to get out of there, having suffered heavily to this machine gun emplacement. Pack getting out of there. First Grenadiers having chased away the officer, and now these Rifle Grenadiers are getting out, while medics are pulling back any wounded British, and of course a German medic as well, trying to get out any wounded Germans. British medics are not selectable, but they did fix it for the Americans, so a bit curious, but there you go. And we see a 25-pounder gun howitzer going up already. That's rather quick, actually, but could certainly be effective. Certainly is going to put a lot of pressure on the Wehrmacht player, and of course any direct approaches will of course be quite severely halted by this Vickers machine gun. But of course any flanking attempts through here or here will certainly be able to do a lot of damage if executed properly. Pack moving ahead again, ready to deter any British armoured movements toward the Wehrmacht base. 716th holding on, but they're certainly under a lot of pressure. MG42 suppressing this recon section. 1st Infantry Division continuing to set up this 25-pounder gun howitzer. The 25-pounder being a venerable piece of artillery in the British service, and in fact it could also be used as an impromptu anti-tank gun. I do believe it was in fact used for that in North Africa with some armor-piercing shells. It could knock out German armor for the most part, but of course it shouldn't really mostly be used for that, as it's still sending in an artillery gun for something it's not quite intended. And we see a lot of mines going off, really doing a lot of damage to these British. Very nice mine usage. Of course, using mines is always a nice thing. British medics moving ahead. All medics in general, by the way, has received some nerfs to their health, so they aren't so tough to kill. And Volksgrenadiers firing away, not keen on seeing any British getting back up on their feet. And what is this? Churchill Mark IV Royal Scots Engineers having been sent in to support the 1st Infantry Division, having gotten off the beaches of Normandy and are now ready to support. And a lot of artillery going off, hitting the Volksgrenadiers, forcing them into a full rout.